Welcome to Inner Child Healing Part 1. And so this section is going to be more about awareness of the childhood experiences that have impacted us as adults and the behavioral patterns that have been birthed out of those experiences that can create blockages in our finances or in our career, our interpersonal relationships, our spiritual gifts. A whole myriad of places and spaces, okay? And as we're going through this section, not all of the experiences or the behavioral patterns are going to be relative to you. However, it's really great to have a deep understanding of a wide variety of these things, especially if you want to help family members or friends or clients, because even though you may have not lived through certain experiences, other people have. And sometimes it's a little difficult to meet people on common ground, especially if they are not as deep into their spiritual awakening or their awareness journey. And it's like, well, why do they act the way that they do? Or why do they think the way that they do? Sometimes that's because you are speaking to the adult version of them and you're thinking, oh, they should be able to understand how their acting is affecting me or affecting other people. However, they probably have inner children and teens within them that have been through PTSD and trauma and did not have the tools and resources that they needed. They don't know how to process their emotions. They don't know how to step outside of themselves and look at what's going on in their life objectively. And so it can be frustrating when we're speaking to persons that way. Need to be understanding their inner children and their teens inside. That's the consciousness in which that person is speaking to you. They are stuck kind of back in that time and space. You're not all the time speaking to a adult conscious mind. Now, should we always be excusing people for their behaviors? No, okay, because it's our responsibility as adults to heal, okay, what has happened to us in the past. But looking at it through this lens, we can hold a lot more compassion and grace, and it can also shift the dynamics of how we're interacting with said persons. Because when you are thinking to yourself, oh, this is a inner child or a teen or a young adult that is not completely formed their judgment and reasoning skills yet, maybe I need to speak to them in a different way. And if you want to work with clients, or maybe you're currently working with clients, I highly suggest doing your own research about experiences and behavioral patterns. I'm going to give a lot of examples here, but obviously it does not cover the totality of things that people can go through in their life experience. But there have been a lot of things that I have not personally experienced, but I kept on seeing repeat with my clients or even my friends, that I want to be able to understand them better, and so that I can be of a support, a mentor, a guide, help them make shifts in their life. And so even though that's not my experience, I'm going to watch some video resources or read some research papers or just do what I can to amplify my knowledge in that area. That's what makes you a really good coach, a mentor, an energy healer. It helps you see the complexities of the human psyche, okay? And it helps you be able to talk to their inner children within them and their inner teens within them a lot easier. And I'm not saying that we need to speak to them as if they're a child, okay? The adult version, it's more of the energy that you are projecting and the way that you are speaking to people. It really does shift when you dive a lot deeper into what are the things that have affected us as adults that have made us who we are today. And you never know, I have had multiple times when I went to go research something for a client, and when I was watching the video or reading the research paper, I was like, oh dang, I have actually lived through this as well. Okay, this is something that I didn't know was relative to my experience, but I'm very glad that I realized this. And sometimes because then you're like, oh, this is more work. But now we want to get to the root of where these things are coming from. Like me with like father wounds, I didn't think that I had a lot of those because my biological father was not in my life. And so I was kind of turning like a blind eye to that. And I had some resistance too. Whenever I saw something about father wounds, I was like, oh, I don't have those because, I didn't have interactions with my father. Okay. But obviously if he wasn't there in my life, there's going to be abandonment wounds. But I did have a relationship with my grandfather who was a stand-in for my father, and we did have quite a few issues with one another, okay, and a lot of things that we had to heal. And so when I started researching for clients about father wounds, that brought me a lot of healing, a lot of realizations and perceptual awareness shifts. So just keeping an open mind while we are researching these things. Hey babe, this is actually a commercial break to let you know that this is a snippet from my Quantum Evolution Academy. And this is an amazing program that I would love for you to be a part of. We're going to learn how to reach higher levels of consciousness, live into our soul mission, how to quantum manifest, how to heal our inner children, work within our Akashic records with our past lives and soul contracts and karmic lessons. Also how to heal your central nervous system and process your emotions. So if you want to learn more, you can go to my profile and click, check the comments here or the description box below, and let's get back to the video. Now I want to talk to your inner children and your inner teens and your past versions. Part of this section, while we're talking about experiences and behavioral patterns, is really heavy. It might bring up some PTSD and trauma, so we want to make sure that we are taking our time while going through it. If you need to come back to it, and then come back to it, and then come back to it, that's totally okay, especially if you have experienced a lot of them. It is going to bring up emotions. It is going to bring up memories. And we need to make sure that we're taking care of our physical body, right? Regulating our central nervous system, maybe taking a salt bath, listening to some light language, some Reiki, doing some things to get that cortisol out of our body, having a good cry. That's totally okay as well. But I want to say to your inner children and teens, hey, those things are not currently happening. The reason that we are looking over them is so that we can better understand ourselves and so that we can release all of that crystalline, hardened energy in our body, because that's what trauma and PTSD does. If we are not processing it, it makes our body crunchy inside, and it blocks up our channels and our meridian lines. It blocks up our lines of communication. If we're feeling a lot of heavy, dense emotions all the time, it's a little bit more difficult to bring our manifestations in, because our manifestations are rooted in love and peace and tranquility and happiness and joy and laughter and magic and whimsy. So we need to kind of clear out all of that stuff at the bottom of our chakras in order to make more room in our life for the things that we enjoy and feeling really good. And so while we're talking about these heavier things, it's okay to feel however you feel, whatever emotion it is that comes up. Okay? And it's okay to take some deep breaths. It's okay to come back to it. But most of these things are not happening at the intensity level that they were when we were a child or when we were in our teens. And this is your job as the higher self, the adult version that I'm speaking to. If you do feel intense emotions come up, or memories, or you feel triggered, or, just central nervous system getting activated, that you can come in and say, hey, I know that these experiences were really intense in childhood and we've had some behavioral patterns form because of them. That's okay. I love you unconditionally. It's totally fine that we're experiencing this right now. What we're doing is we're being aware of it. Okay, and that's half of the steps of healing, just knowing what is going on with ourselves. And we are going to take our time processing it. I'm not upset with you. I'm not holding any anger or judgment. We don't need to feel guilty or shameful, because these things are not our fault. These are things that were taught to us. These are things that were projected onto us. This is trauma that we have been through. It is my job as a higher self to now be the leader, the guide, the mentor, the coach. I'm going to protect you. We're going to do this process together, and we're also going to make it fun. Okay? So we're going to talk about that as well, as how we don't always have to dig through trauma, that actually having fun is a form of shadow work, and that can be very healing in and of itself. And so it doesn't have to be this really scary and intense thing. And when you say these things over your inner children and teens, even if you can't hear them, they can hear you. Okay? It helps them feel a lot more comforted and safe and secure, and that it's okay to trust you as the guardian.